What's up, guys? This is One Royal Way here on Kansas City Sports Network. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're on YouTube or you're audio only, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Joel Penfield, and joining me tonight, one of my co-hosts over on the Royals Farm Report side, Josh Keiser. He's going to come on. We're going to talk a little bit about some early observations from spring training. We're 5-6 games in. We are 2 weeks away from Bobby Witt Jr. making his big league debut at Kauffman Stadium, so we're very excited there. But Josh, I'm going to start. Did you get the Wardle today?
I did not. There are too many left-handed outfielders for the New York Mets, so I did not get Jeff McNeil today. But I'm ready to get back in the saddle. That's some good stuff.
That is so much fun. It feeds my baseball nerdiness, so I'm very excited to whenever I can get a couple of minutes away from work to be able to get that done. So yeah, I was able to get it. I got it on the last try though, because I guess Conforto, Dom Smith, and Nimmo before I got to Jeff McNeil. I forgot he plays left field.
Same guys. Be honest. Do you ever consult roster resource on Fangraphs during this?
When I get to guess 7, I do.
Okay. That's fine. I'm not here to judge. I definitely do it sometimes too, but
yeah, when I get to the 7th guess, I go, okay, I need to go look at the 40 real quick because there's something I'm missing.
Yep. No, totally get it.
All right, before we get into the meat of this podcast, we are brought to you by Kansas City Strength and Conditioning. And go check out this video real quick that's going to run on the YouTube side about what makes KCSC so different and one of the best places to train in the area.
From the beginning, we knew right away that we wanted to do strength conditioning and a throwing program for the baseball and softball community. It wasn't something we were trying to back into or all of a sudden learn. We knew we were really good at coaching these skills from the get-go, and the fact that we're in the same business and the employees are all on the same page, we can write a program based off of what a kid needs, not just getting him stronger or faster from a general sense. It's what does this kid need? On the pitching end, we can say, hey, this kid needs such and such. He needs to do this or that better. A lot of times it turns out it's not something that needs to be fixed in the baseball cage or on the throwing mound. It actually needs to be fixed in the weight room.
Can't thank them enough for sponsoring this show. Be sure to go check them out down in Homefield or Homefield in Olathe if you have a baseball or softball player that needs a place to train. Josh, we said we were 6 games in. The Royals have won 5 of them. They tied 1, so they have not lost yet. Still undefeated on the 2022 season, as if that means anything. What are just some of your early thoughts on just what you've seen? We can talk about individual players here coming up in a second, but just overall thoughts about watching professional baseball again.
Love it when I can watch it. They're still trying. I mean, they need to air every one of these games. The nerds like ourselves are going to be all in on the whole game, especially towards the end when these minor league dudes start getting run, just to kind of get our glimpse of them there. But just to see a baseball back just makes my belly full of goodness and gets my baseball fix on point. So happy to have it back.
This is just such a great time of year for sports. You have March Madness in full swing. Sweet 16 is going on right now as we're recording. Spring training is getting into full swing. Like I said, we're 2 weeks away. And if you're a golf guy too, opening day is the same day as round 1 of the Masters. So that is going to be a day where I can guarantee work isn't getting done in most places around this country. But I digress. It's gonna be a ton of fun. We got a lot of guys that are getting run, but a lot of young guys. And that's where I love the beginning of spring training too, because you get a lot of non-roster invitees. You get some young players that are going to get a little bit of run in big league camp. They're not going to be there the whole time, but you're getting a taste of what they can do, getting a couple of bats here and there. And that's why I wanted to get you on tonight to talk about this, because it's a great intersection of our 2 shows, One Royal Way and Royals Farm Report, because we have a lot of these guys that we talk about specifically on Royals Farm that you're going to hear more about as the season goes on, but they're in big league camp. They're in these big league games. Even if they're getting at-bats against similar AA pitching down in the 6th, 7th inning, it's still big league camp, which is important for a lot of these guys and gives the big league staff an opportunity to look at them and go, hey, maybe this guy is going to help us sooner rather than later. One of the main guys that, even though he was a non-roster invitee, I think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to not be on the, he will be on the 40 here very soon. Bobby Witt Jr. has been awesome this spring, playing a lot of third base. That's where it seems like he's going to play. Alec Lewis talked about it, that one of the early infield practices, it was Witt at third, Mondesi at short, Nicky Lopez at second, and then Carlos Santana at first. I think that's a pretty good indication of what the starting infield is going to look like when the Royals play Cleveland on April 7th. I mean, I don't know if you can say enough good things about what he's been able to do and the home runs he's hitting, the way he's playing third. I mean, it's plus defense at the corner infield position. He's going to be that good at shortstop whenever he gets the opportunity to play there as well. I can't wait. Mm-hmm. And with some of the moves that the Royals have seen these other teams in the American League Central make, with Correa going to Minnesota, you got Baez, going to the Tigers. The White Sox are one of the top 3 teams in the sport right now. And Cleveland they're a little bit of a coin flip, but they're well run. They're going to be really good. You have to make a move. You have to do something. And I think putting Bobby Witt Jr. on the opening day roster, he's proven enough. I think he proved it last year too, in what we saw in spring training. And now he's just doing it again.
And
if the Royals are serious about winning, Bobby Witt Jr. needs to be on the opening day roster.
And I think that was the same case as it was last year. You didn't want to start the year with Kelvin Gutierrez as your primary third baseman. Hunter Dozier's defense is not great over there. So and third base and first base has always seemingly, since Hosmer and Moose left, always seemed like somewhat of a turnstile position. And that's tough to do when your offense, most offenses in the major league, are centered around first base, third base, and right field are the big ones. And if you've got a hole, and a hole, that's tough to be able to generate any kind of runs.
Oh, yeah.
And the Royals' success is always going to be based on how the farm system is doing. And these last, 5 or 6 years trying to, bridge the gap and just cross the finish line to get to that point, you wondered where the superstar-ness is going to come from. And there were plenty of questions there right when Bobby Witt Jr. started hitting professional baseball, where you're just like, man, I don't know. This is the Royals trying to develop a prep hitter to number 2 overall. Everybody says he's going to be A-Rod or whatever. That's the comp. You just start to kind of get a little leery about the direction of that offense. And at this point, I think all the questions and concerns are answered, both with his performance in the minor leagues last year and what he's done in spring training the last 2 years. Now he's getting only run with the major leaguers. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to be the opening day third baseman, barring an injury. I mean, he could hop over to shortstop as well, but I think he's in the lineup on day one. I'm very curious to see where. Today he was in the 2-hole, where Nicky usually is. I kind of really like Nicky down there in that 9-hole to kind of be that second leadoff hitter.
Exactly.
But having Bobby Witt in that 2-hole not only protects him a little bit to get him some fastballs to throw to him, but it also really should be setting the table for Salvi or Carlos Santana or one of these dudes that are supposed to be run generators, like we talked to Vinny about on the Royals Farm Report podcast. So you got run scorers and run producers, and I think setting the table with Witt in the 2-hole for now until he becomes A-Rod, I'm all in on it.
Yeah, I really like him in that 2 spot. You pair him up with Whit Merrifield, who's going to put together a decent at bat early on. Witt's pretty aggressive, but he's going to get on base at a pretty high clip and you can put hit and runs on with those guys. You have two guys with plus speed. I think Bobby might even be plus speed.
Yep.
And his ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark, which we've seen as advertised in these first couple of games.
As long as it was on, the camera was on.
Right.
Not like today's, which I'm furious about.
Hey, it was still a tank. You could see where the people were running out in left center on the berm there. When you hit it that far, I think in the clip too, Bobby he's barely out of the box, and the pitcher's already asking for a ball. Yep. He's like, all right, man, let's go. He didn't even turn around to look. At least the left fielder gave him a courtesy jog. That was at least nice.
That one was piped too. The one he got into, was it yesterday or the day before? It was inside in on his hands. He got his hands out in front and got it out. This one looked like it was just meaty. So
center cut. He doesn't miss it. Ryan said it right before he hit his first home run, where he said he doesn't miss his pitch. And he got it, and turn and burn home run.
Yep.
I'm not going to put too much stock into 10 at-bats. And that's what I think is important to understand here is, as we're talking about this, it's such a small sample size over 6 games. And it's 10 or 11 at-bats. I think the most on the team is 11. Yep. So these are more just overarching thoughts of what we think is going to happen moving forward. Not a lot of making, rash judgments, I don't think, about some of these guys. I can irrationally say Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be really good and he's going to be on the opening day roster. And I can tell that, but considering he's the number one prospect in baseball, he was minor league player of the year, and he's, doing what he's doing right now in the big league. I think that is a rational enough take that it's not going to talk too much, not going to overshadow too much of what
it's not too hot of a take.
Right.
That's for sure. Saying that he's going to be the rookie of the year, MVP all in the same year, that might be a little hot takey, but maybe I do
have a plus 300 ticket on him to be rookie of the year.
There you go. I don't see why that. Who's going to get it from him?
Yeah, exactly.
Adley?
Torque maybe.
Torque maybe.
Detroit. Yeah. There are some options, but I think if he makes the opening day roster, like I think he will, then he's going to have the inside track. Vegas thinks he will, and I think
was he the odds-on favorite when you got him at the plus 3?
Yep.
I got you.
So the next two guys we want to talk about here are the guys that are probably they're going to make the big league roster. I think at least two of them will, or at least one of them will. In Edward Olivares and Kyle Isbell. Olivares has killed it.
Yeah,
he's 7 for 10, 2 homers. He had 2 yesterday in one of the non-televised games. I mean, I think he's proved enough that he can be a viable big leaguer. I don't think he's an everyday guy, but I don't think he's the guy that's going to go up and down 12 times between Omaha and Kansas City.
Yep.
What he can provide on defense, I don't know. That's kind of been his knock, is he's not the greatest defender. I don't think it's for lack of trying. I think it's just kind of that athlete is, but he's a good enough athlete that he can turn himself into a decent defender and be a guy that can, you can put against lefties and maybe kind of platoon him with Kyle Isbell, where on a certain day they're going to kind of mix and match and go. But I think he's proved enough that he can maybe be a guy that gets 250 at-bats, 270 at-bats in a season as a fourth or fifth outfielder. I think Isbell can be the same type of guy, and I think Isbell's a lot better player. And long-term, I think he's going to be a great corner outfielder in Kansas City left or right field. He's Gold Glove caliber in that spot.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's ready for a full-on starting spot at this point. He might be by June, and I think a lot of that is predicated on, honestly, so many of the dominoes are predicated on whether or not Adalberto Mondesi gets hurt.
Yep.
If he gets hurt, then you can slide Witt to short. You can bring Whit Merrifield in from the outfield, mix and match and go, and you can get Isbell and Olivares in the lineup more.
Yep. And
I'm not trying to wish injury upon a guy, but it's just part and parcel what you get with a guy like that. He gets hurt a lot.
It's a foregone conclusion almost every year. It's like he's going to miss 60 days or 60 games.
And it sucks because he's such a great talent, but you just can't rely on him to stay healthy. So I don't know long-term what his role is going to be, but if he's a starting shortstop, if he can play 150 games, then the Royals are in pretty good shape because the talent's obviously going to win out there.
Yep.
But what do you think about the Isbell and Olivares and where you think they stack up right now?
I'm happy that they're getting the run that they are. Olivares seems like he hasn't gotten much run with the major league teams. I didn't see with his quality of pitching that he's faced so far, but he hasn't struck out yet. No walks, pretty free swinger seemingly. But I don't know what else you need to see that his bat is major league ready. And like you said, the defense seems to be the key here. And the guy we just spoke about, Bobby Witt, is kind of the one that may have taken a couple at bats away from him, being, having him at third and then shifting Merrifield out to right field. You also got Dozier in the mix where if you need, he's going to be kind of a utility guy at first and probably right field more so. So it's good to have options. I agree. I'm a big Isbell guy. He's also doing really well. I think he leads the team in OPS actually last I saw.
I think he struggled a little bit today. He's down to 962.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's 2 hits tomorrow and his OPS is like 1.3.
Right.
So to be fair, like Edward Olivares' OPS is 2.3. So,
right. Yep.
What are you going to do?
Only is what it is, right?
Well, I think the difference between Isbell and Olivares is I think Isbell can play center field. I don't think Olivares can.
I agree.
And I don't think Isbell, he'd be fine in center field.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think he'd be stellar? No.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a great corner outfielder. But like you go to Yankee Stadium, you can put Edward Olivares or Kyle Isbell out there in center. He can hang around just fine. Yeah. Playing in that Cracker Jack box of a stadium, I think he'll be okay.
You want his left-handed bat in that lineup to try to hit 314 down the line.
Exactly.
If he's going to hit a dinger and got a good shot at it, it's going to be in that stupid stadium. But the other thing I liked about his is he's got 3 walks and granted 4 strikeouts, but that tells me he's going to get deep into at bats, and that's not necessarily a thing that the Royals do. Even with Carlos Santana, his walks went down last year. His strikeouts went up, I believe. So if you can get a guy that is great in the field, he's got two-hole hitter written all over him as well. So when Bobby Witt starts turning it on, he goes to 3, Salvi's a 4, Isbell's or Nicky Lopez at that 2 slot. I think that's pretty solid. And I do like the fact that he's getting the run that he is. Shows that they have a little bit of faith in him to be able to get run with the major leaguers, to get a test against those guys. And it also they don't have to extend Andrew Benintendi because they kind of have the same dude. Maybe a little bit better defense, maybe a little less contact than Benintendi does, but you don't have to go out and give Benintendi $15 million a year for 4 years. You can, if that's the way you want to go, but you don't have to, because you have Kyle Isbell, kind of the same dude, still be able to produce similar to level, I think, in the long run, and you don't have to pay him that much. So I think you could still go sell Benintendi if they're sellers at the deadline, then you can probably get a okay haul for Benintendi depending on what he's doing. So I think that also frees up the long term for left field if Isbell's producing on this level.
Yeah, absolutely. So then the next 2 guys I want to hit on here. One of our favorite guys for sure. The 2 left-handed hitting first basemen, they're going to be getting time in AAA between Nick Pratto and Vinny Pasquantino. Vinny's gotten a couple of starts, which or at least one for sure. He's 3 of 8 with a couple of walks, hitting 375 with a homer. Pratto is he's 2 for 6. He struck out 4 times, or he's walked 4 times, struck out 3. So he's starting to maybe get a little bit of play discipline in there. The swing and miss is still a little concerning, but I think one of those at bats was against Shohei Ohtani. So not gonna take too much away from there. I think that was a couple of Kyle Isbell strikeouts too, where against Shohei Ohtani. That dude's a top 7 pitcher in baseball. So
it was also an Oliveras, at least 1 single, but maybe 2, right?
Oh yeah, he got 2 knocks off of Ohtani. Yeah,
he hit 2 little line drives up the middle. I'm into it.
Hey, there we go. But between those 2, I think both are going to start in AAA. Obvious. I think that's pretty obvious at this point, because there is a little bit of a log jam at first base between Santana and
Dozier
and the ghost of Ryan O'Hearn, and
who is also hitting well
because he's getting opportunities against AA pitching.
Well,
but gotta give
produce
him maybe.
When you can produce.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. But between those 2, I almost want to lean Vinny at this point, but of the first guy that gets called up between the 2, I think Pratto has a higher ceiling than Vinny does, but Vinny's also a couple of years older. He got better as he went up levels last year between high A and AA. And the way he's seeing the ball and the way he's putting together at bats against big league pitching tells me that he's probably not. I don't think he's going to struggle in AAA at all. He's probably already too good for the league, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And I think Pratto obviously provides a little more power. Vinny's going to be a little more hit. He's not going to strike out as much, which is the huge thing to watch for Nick Pratto. And I think why he might hang around for a little bit longer. He was still good and perfectly viable in AAA last year when he got called up from Northwest Arkansas, but he struck out a ton.
Yep.
I mean, his strikeout rate skyrocketed from AA to AAA. And with the way he swings and the way he goes, I don't know if that's ever going to come down. I hope it does. But I just think the trends indicate he's still going to strike out quite a bit. That's been his thing for his entire career. He was able to keep it manageable for the most part last year, but it's probably still too much for a guy that's not going to hit the way that you maybe want a first baseman to.
Yeah.
So,
and you don't call him up without he's getting everyday reps at first base.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
that logjam has to completely clear out of first base in order for him to get called up. And there's at least 2 moves that need to be made in order for that to be achieved. I will say, as on the whole, in his AA last year, he had a 29.1% K rate, went to Omaha and had a 28.5. So it was actually lower. Still not good.
It's still not good. It's still not
great.
Well, and I think some of that too was, I think he was able to cut it a little bit at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But because I think it was over 30 for a little bit in Omaha.
Yep.
So, and they started to go up a little bit as he got done. So he's just going to strike out a lot, but you almost don't worry about that at this level of baseball. And I think, and both of them are going to benefit from the shift going away by 2023.
Oh yeah.
Vinny's really going to be, he might be an all-star. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but for a bigger dude that hits the ball on the ground quite a bit, he might benefit from that.
Yeah.
But that ball that Vinny hit for a homer against the Angels,
40 degrees.
It was 40 degrees, about 430 something feet.
I mean, that's not nothing.
That's not nothing
I don't care
at all.
who it's off of. That is an all power home run.
Yes, and he walked him off today with a little slap single to left field. So, well, those are the things you love to see. And did you see the story that Joel Goldberg talked about it? That Zack Greinke, I guess they interacted in the locker room. They were talking to Vinny, and he goes, if you would have told 10-year-old me I'd be sharing a locker room with Zack Greinke, we did Sudoku together. It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
And if you have listened to any of our interviews over on the Royals farm side with Vinny, you can just hear that is 100% something he would say.
Yep.
I can't wait for him to come to Kansas City because I guarantee you he's going to be a fan favorite. Because not only is he going to be good, but he's got the type of personality that's infectious that people are just going to gravitate towards. And even casual fans are like, no, I like that guy because he's just that type of dude.
Yep. And I think there was a lot of speculation back when they were talking about the Montas trade that, hey, Vinny's great in the minor leagues. Nick Prado is obviously the first baseman of the future. Just throw him on this deal with Montas. And I was not ready to do that. I don't think that Dayton Moore or Piccolo would do that. I think he's got the intangibles. We talked about it a few times on this on the Royals Farm Report podcast, that he's got the intangibles, the leadership ability, the ability to be the glue guy in the locker room, that I think just absolutely is what Dayton Moore dreams of when he goes to bed at night. So I don't see him not being in Kansas City when he's major league ready. And like you said, I think there's a decent case with his mature plate approach. He's done it for 2 or 3 seasons. Granted, they're in the lower minors and he is a little bit old for those, but he's, again, producing when he's supposed to produce.
Yeah, he did what he was supposed to do against the competition.
100%. And he had to climb up the ladder to get on to get attention. And now he is. He's he's hitting designated hitter with some of the major league guys the other day. And that's not nothing either. So
Pipeline had him number 5.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable for a bat first, bigger first baseman with not a lot of athleticism. That's a big deal. I think that says a lot about where not only the Royals see him, but people outside the organization see a guy like Vinny.
Yep. And I don't think, again, you probably don't call him up until he's probably getting every day at bats. So you obviously have to clear Ryan O'Hearn, but then you got to figure out what's going on with Dozier and Santana. Maybe the Royals are at 500 at the deadline. They're not wanting to sell. And Vinny hasn't made his debut, and they're still, he's still producing in Omaha or something, and they just can't. I don't think they're going to move Vinny to an outfield spot.
Absolutely not.
Even if they did, there's plenty of players there too. So it's kind of something's going to, and something, this stuff always gets figured out one way or another. Injuries happen, trades happen, guys don't produce and get sent down. So something will get figured out, but it's just a good problem to have.
The Royals generally have a good problem right now when it 100%. Comes to the guys that they can bring up or should bring up. Yeah. They have a lot of them that they could go to, and they have guys at the big league level that can produce, that they're not bailing water trying to just survive. I mean, they have a couple that they could probably move off of, but I just don't think it's going to happen right away. And I'll talk to that, and then we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. One more guy that I really want to hit on is MJ Melendez. Is 4 for 11, putting together some decent at bats, showing off a lot of the success that he had at the minor league level last year. Minor league leader in home runs with 43, which is remarkable. If you don't know how bad MJ Melendez struggled in 2019 in Wilmington, then Wilmington Blue Rocks, the high A affiliate, go look at his numbers, and then look at what he did last year between Northwest Arkansas and Omaha. It is remarkable. And he's showing no sign of slowing down. And what's also interesting is that he got to start today behind the plate, which I think is going to come this year as well. It start to take some of the burden off of Salvi needing to catch 130 games, which he doesn't need to do at this point in his career. Just go hit homers. That's fine. But MJ got some time at third, which I thought was interesting toward the end of the game. I don't think he came in the game as a late substitution, as a lot of these young guys do, but he didn't go behind the plate. He played third, and he played third in a couple of games last year, and he looked serviceable, looked good. I mean, he's a really, really good athlete. So I have no qualms about him going and playing third because, like we talked about, the Royals having a good problem. At a certain point, you just put the bats in the lineup and you see what happens, and just find a place for them where they can be not a net negative in the field and just make it work. So I think that's what a lot of what MJ playing third is we know he can help us in the lineup very soon. And we just want to make him seem like he is good enough that he can hold his own there and the bat will speak for itself.
Yep. And I think that's another guy that, again, he's not getting the call until everyday at bats are part of it. That would probably require an injury this year. And people are like up in arms about him potentially going to third base because his receiving ability and his defense behind the plate is just crazy good.
Yeah.
So I understand like the value standpoint. You want to make sure you're maximizing all these dudes' potential, especially in a value area. And Melendez at third base just doesn't do that as much as being able to shift him behind the plate and then send Salvi to first base or DH.
Just DH.
Yeah.
I will push back a little bit on he won't get called up until every day at bats are gone. I disagree with that. Yeah. I think the best way to get especially for a catcher and a guy that is still kind of young, it might be okay for him to play every third or fourth day.
Yeah.
And kind of get his feet wet and learn from Salvi and go from there. I think he's a guy that could benefit from that. I think there are guys like Vinny, Nick, and other guys like that are going to get called up in midseason where I can see that you don't want to call them up until there's an opportunity every single day. But for a guy like MJ, especially being a catcher, the valuation of catchers is so different than any other position because what you do defensively, for the most part, matters infinitely more than what you do at the plate. Salvi's kind of the exception to the rule in that where he's a good defender, but he's one of the better hitting catchers in baseball up there with like JT Realmuto, Will Smith, Yasmani Grandal, like those types of guys.
Yep.
But all of those guys are elite defenders. And so the fact that you're getting that kind of offensive production speaks volumes. But for a guy like MJ, just worry about being awesome behind the plate and the at-bats will come. There's no reason for you to hit, 085 hitting it, playing every day. Like that's just not worth it. But I think for him to be a catcher and can play every once in a while, get used to it so that I think by 2023, he's your everyday catcher or close to it. You can start Salvi can catch 40 to 50 games for the most part DH. And that's the transition that can take place.
Yeah.
Because MJ is that good behind the plate. He can be your everyday catcher by within a year or two. And you can coexist with Salvi in the lineup as well, just hitting tanks at DH.
And that would obviously mean that Cam Gallagher isn't on the roster at that point.
Probably. And that's the crazy thing is that he's really good defensively.
Yeah.
And that's why you carry two catchers. That's why you have a backup that can come in and do that. I mean, hell, that's why Jeff Mathis had an amazing career in the big league, 16 years. And I don't think he ever had a season where he hit above like 210.
Yeah.
So.
And people talk like Cam Gallagher has trade value. And I mean, that is
teams call about him every year.
Yep.
Teams call Dayton Moore and JJ Piccolo asking about Cam Gallagher because he is that type of value.
And at this point, they also have Seabass back there, who's also pretty solid defensively. And then under him, Omar Hernandez, Alex's golden child behind the plate.
I'm a big fan of Omar Hernandez too.
I mean, if you get in a pinch,
Kale Imshoff
is definitely going to be making his way from what they're. I mean, Andy Rogers was talking about him on our podcast a couple weeks ago. I loved what I heard out of that as well. So they got options if they need to get some kind of value out of Cam Gallagher. I think it might be worth more in a trade now than you're going to get from him being on the major league roster this year.
I could totally see that being a trade deadline move, where
team before opening day.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen that fast.
Probably not.
I don't think MJ is going to make the opening day roster. I do think there still is some seasoning that needs to happen in AAA.
Sure.
Especially if they do want to play him at third more.
Yep.
Then
or corner
that's
outfield.
a perfect opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And because I don't think there's many people stopping him getting at bats at third base right now on AAA roster that I can think of.
There might be a couple of them, but you're probably, if you're trying to work him at those
like
points,
twice a week,
no reason.
Twice a week if you want to put him at third, sure, what the hell, why not?
Yeah.
And then if he continues to hit the way he has, then get him up to Kansas City fast. I would much rather watch a season where they maybe don't meet expectations, but they're getting a lot of these young guys in by June or July.
Absolutely.
And they're starting to gel and get together, and they're getting those at bats and everything's rolling that way. Than watching Carlos Santana or Hunter Dozier, Ryan O'Hearn get all of these at bats from Vinny, Nick, and MJ, when those guys are not part of the future.
Right.
I Hunter Dozier maybe. Like I think, but I don't know if it's in an everyday role.
Right.
But like there are multiple guys on the current roster that are not part of the next good team in Kansas City.
Yep.
Those guys are. I would rather give them at bats this year so that they are ready for when the Royals are good and the Royals are competing if that's the way the window is working the way we think it is.
Yeah, and I would love to have my cake and eat it too. If we can work these dudes into a lineup that is contending, awesome. That's best case scenario.
Yeah,
probably not going to be a thing right now.
Not this year. I don't think it's this year,
but at least
I don't think that's a bad thing either.
Yeah, at least it's a direction. At least
Yes.
you know what this year is. The last like 3 years, you're like, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm totally in on. I mean, it's always April. It's always May. I'm always drinking the Kool-Aid, being like, this is great. We signed Mike Minor and Carlos Santana. We extended Hunter Dozier. He's going to be a roster cornerstone. I always drink the Kool-Aid every year. And every year by June, July, August, I'm like, what happened this year? What did we do that was constructive to the long-term success of this baseball club? Usually that's done through the draft. Usually that's done at the trade deadline. But it's always up in the air. It's always a mystery. And if we're working young guys into a lineup that loses 72 games, fine. That's fine. We're grinding teeth. We're cutting teeth. We're going. We have a direction, and it is what it is. So
if you're audio only, you don't see this, but if you're on YouTube, you see me wearing the Baseballism Ken Griffey Jr. So I love the Royals, but the Mariners were my first love when it comes to baseball. And I was 4 when the Mariners won 116 games in Ichiro's first year. I bought in. I was all in on the Mariners, all in on baseball, and I've watched 20 years of futility since. So I think that made me a very cynical human being when it comes to sports very early on. Like I was jaded from a very early age because I bought in, and then it's been awful since. So I think that's what makes me kind of have some reservations about what I see at any year, no matter how good the Royals, Mariners, Chiefs, Oklahoma State are. I'm like, we'll see. And then I did buy in last year, and that did not.
It did not. I can't remember how many games I predicted them winning. I think it was like somewhere between 83 and 86. They didn't get there.
No. I remember having that cocky tweet on May 1st. Hey, the Royals have the best record in baseball, and then we watched what happened in May.
Yeah,
and there we go.
Not good stuff. But I will say, this roster, in my opinion, should be better than last year's 74-win team. Should be, I think.
Totally.
Legitimately.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean, I mean, I'm still thinking somewhere between the 70 and 82 win games, 78 and 82.
That's where I'm at right now.
And that's kind of me being conservative here. So
I think 500 is totally within reason.
Sure.
As it should be.
Yeah.
It should. At this point in where the Royals want to compete, 82 wins should be where they need to be at.
Yeah.
Or 81 wins, I guess.
And that's fine. I'm good with that range, especially if we get there by playing a lot of young guys and figuring out who's what. If Mondesi can stay healthy relatively, that's another big thing. So if we can accomplish a few things this year that we've already discussed, then I'd be fine with how this year goes, no matter what.
Just scrolling down a little bit, I just saw Hunter Dozier's hitting 455 early
on
this
he
year,
is.
so that's nice.
Yep.
I said I don't think he's an everyday player on this team at this point, but he could be a very valuable bench player.
Which in his extension was not much.
No,
they could legitimately release him, and it will not hamper them very much at all.
No, and I think for a guy like him, he got hurt last year. He had that thumb thing, where he was hurt, and they knew he was hurt, but then he kept playing when it was ugly, very very terrible.
Yep.
And then he came back by July, and then he got healthy and actually started hitting and looking like the 2018 or 2019 Hunter Dozier that was good. And what looked like a valuable piece of a team moving forward. So if he can turn into that type of guy, he'd be like 85% of 2019 Hunter Dozier. Cool. Yeah. Great. Then 100%. We're in good shape. Any other position players you want to talk about before we move on to pitchers?
Not really. I think in general, the bats have been great. There's not that many dudes outside of Jacoby Jones who are not hitting well, not doing what you kind of want from them. Granted, spring training in Arizona is all about the hitters anyways, so I'm not getting too hyped up about that. I'm not driving the Hunter Dozier MVP train like I did last spring, but it is good to see every one of those hitters that you want to see do something are doing it. So I am very in on the position players in this roster being that lineup being a lot better than they were last year.
Absolutely. So moving over to the pitching side, I'll just say this, and we don't have to talk about Greinke for too long because it's just one start, but it was cool and it looked good to see Greinke back wearing that KC cap.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, no strikeouts. I don't know how many strikeouts he's going to have this year, but 3 scoreless innings, two hits, 1 walk. I think he'll go out and give you 6 almost every game.
Yeah, I talked about it with Tucker last week that he kind of is going to fill that Mike Minor role of you're going to go out and throw until your arm falls off. But he threw 170 innings last year. I have no reason to believe that he can't do it this year. And what was interesting, and these guys are still ramping up, and he hit 90.
Yeah, he did.
Well, I can't tell you the last time he hit 90. I don't think he did maybe at all last year.
I think
he was throwing 87-mile-an-hour fastballs with 87-mile-an-hour changeups last year. So,
which I love, by the way. I don't know how you get away with something like that, but I love it.
It's Zack Greinke. I don't question many things with him because it's just Zack Greinke.
I think I saw Lynn Worthy talk about his range of velocity yesterday was from 68 to 90.
It was 60. That one of those curveballs was 66.
I love it. Give me all the emphasis.
Okay, because we're immature children. Over under 13 and a half 69-mile-an-hour curveballs.
Oh man, give me the over. I mean, yeah, give me the over. I'm in on it.
And those, because I want to see as many of those as possible because those always end up on Pitching Ninja.
Yep.
It's every single time it's a 69-mile-an-hour curveball, it gets gifted by the man himself. So
you get to watch a batter's brain break in slow motion. It's fantastic.
Yes, and then you couple that with, again, like 88, and it rides at the top of the zone. It's hilarious.
Yep.
But, yeah, like I don't have super high expectations for what Zack Greinke is going to do. I just don't. But if he can be that veteran presence that the young pitchers and the guys that are still kind of cutting their teeth can lean on, which it seems like that's the case. He's shown up at Daniel Lynch's side session. He made sure to sit with Brady Singer and Jackson Kowar during live BP. He had all these young guys over to his house for dinner, as Alec Lewis reported. So I know he's not the rah-rah, like leadership guy that everyone's going to gravitate towards, but there is something to seeing a guy that's cut his teeth and done it for 16 years. Like that matters to a lot of these guys, I'm sure. And these are guys that grew up watching Zack Greinke. They were 10, 11 years old when he was winning the Cy Young in Kansas City. So, or even maybe a little older than that, but still. Like
math is not important.
No. I mean, I was 2009. I was 13. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
12, 13.
Almost graduating college. So,
Yeah.
We were basically on the same emotional intelligence level between you and me on that year. But when I saw the Greinke signing, I was pumped because it did seem like he could be that strong veteran presence in that locker room. And I know his personality doesn't really scream it, but you do see him like prior. He was talking to Verlander. He was talking to Garrett Cole. He was talking to these dudes trying to, pick their brain about grips, how they kind of go about their sequencing, and
how do you spider tack?
Well, I don't know about that, Joel, but he was at least getting strategic little nuggets that I guarantee you trickle down into these young pitchers, and the fact that he is embracing it as much as Zack Greinke would embrace it is really cool to see. The next thing I thought was, how are his personality and Brady Singer's personality going to coexist?
That's going to be interesting.
And I think
we are going to get we're going to get some sort of funny memeable picture of like some sort of juxtaposition of Greinke just sitting there crisscross in the dugout and Brady Singer losing his mind. We're going to get, especially if like there's a rain delay or something.
Yep. And I'm here for it. I love Singer's fire. I love it as long as he can harness it and it doesn't implode on him.
That's the key.
I love it. And the fact that Singer is already being like, he just tells you the truth. The God's honest truth. And he's like, it's refreshing. It's really cool. Nobody's blowing smoke. But I could also see that getting really under somebody's skin if they're on a 105-degree day and in late July, you just got blown up in 3 innings pitched, and you come in, you see Zack Greinke being like, so you didn't pitch very well today. It's like, yes, Zach, I didn't. And just completely losing his mind. So I could see that happening, but the fact that I feel like you said, the respect is there for Singer. It's not like another, like a 27-year-old. Brad Keller's not going to come give you that type of honesty.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's Greinke, I feel like these pitchers are going to respect him whenever he is that honest. And I mean, these guys are already very vocal about how awesome it is to have him in the clubhouse. So I'm very interested to see. It feels like he's going to be a way more into that mentor role than Mike Minor maybe was.
Totally. So now let's talk about some of those the young pitchers. I say young, but like you guys are all going to their second, third year in the
Right.
big leagues. But comparatively, like we would still refer to them as the young guys because they're still kind of getting their feet wet in the bigs.
Yep.
I thought Jackson Kowar looked really good in his start. I think he gave up a home run or gave up a couple of hits, but overall, like the pitchability looked nice. Fastball, his fastball runs up into the upper 90s. I think he said he was around 97. But the way he was able to pair that with the changeup, his changeup is amazing. It's one of my favorite pitches in all of baseball. 4 punch outs in 2 innings. That's really nice to see early on. I don't know if he's going to make the big leagues to start, but he's also he was too good for AAA. So I think this might be a scenario where they just put him in that 4 or 5 spot and just let him kind of figure things out. I think that's a perfect time for that. Singer looked okay. I wasn't overly impressed, but it's hard to take away from 2 innings of one spring training.
His first one.
First one, yeah. Like he was, but it's kind of a microcosm, at least early on, of what we've seen from Brady Singer. His fastball is all over the place. And obviously he gets some ridiculous horizontal run with it, but he wasn't able to spot it anywhere. Threw a lot of sliders. It looked like he was making a more concerted effort to throw his changeup. Has to do. If he's not going to throw it, then just put him in the bullpen and let him go sinker slider. But you cannot be a 2-pitch pitcher as a starter. So if he's going to make that more concerted effort to throw the changeup, then I'm willing to buy in a little bit. And
he was getting some really, really bad swings and misses on that slider of that game too.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that people know that he's more or less a 2.5 pitch pitcher. Yeah. And his slider is still good enough to not matter.
You gotta leave at least a little something to the imagination when it comes to pitching. So,
and you got to paint. You cannot be wild. You got to have control of it. It's just, you can't get by with that period, but especially if you can't locate a fastball.
The one thing that does concern me a little bit about Brady Singer is he looks terrified to throw to the bases. I'm not going to say it's John Lester bad, because John Lester intentionally would spike the ball to first base because he couldn't do it. But he goes, and it was a little tapper back to him, and he completely airmailed the throw home. That was like an 8-foot throw, it wasn't even close.
He was rolling to the right though, so in his defense, it's a tough play for a pitcher, but he should make it.
That's what you do PFPs for. You're doing those very regularly on backfields in spring training. Like that. He had a problem with that last year too. He airmailed throws to first base. He did something similar, like where he just couldn't make the throw home, fielding his position. And I'm not going to say that fielding your position is the end all be all, but it's a little bit of a problem. Now, going back to the Zack Greinke point, Greinke is a Gold Glover. So maybe there's some tutelage that can happen there that helps figure something out, because I don't want to call it full on yips, but like it
just seems like he gets amped up. I do the same thing when I'm doing just simple tasks. If I'm riding high with anxiety or for some reason I can't do anything routine, no matter what, the easier it is, the harder it seems when you're kind of amped up like that. So I think, again, my very amateur and stupid unknowing perspective is that it just seems like he gets a little amped up, and that's kind of what leads to his downfall. So I'd be curious to see if that calming effect that Greinke kind of has, even when he's giving you the honest truth, I wonder if that rubs off on him. And I mean, all that's just going to come with time too, I think. So I'm not worried about it at this point.
No, I'm really not either. Daniel Lynch started today against the Reds. He gave up a home run to Joey Votto, but Joey Votto bangs. So whatever, like one of the best, Hall of Fame left-handed hitter. Congrats. Like, homer. He's another guy that kind of puzzles me a little bit, because the stuff is there. He can be awesome. I was at the game when he threw 8 shut against the Tigers and looked like he had really figured things out, and then he didn't. I don't know if it's a deception thing. I don't know what it is. I think he can get it figured out. But again, I think he's another guy I think he was too good for AAA, just like Kowar. So at a certain point, like the Royals rotation going into the year, probably going to be Greinke, Keller, and Singer, and then Kowar, Bubic, and Lynch going for 2 of those final 3 spots.
I mean, Carlos Hernandez
too.
Zerpa.
Yeah.
You got, it's going to be interesting.
I could see a scenario where I think Carlos Hernandez probably earned a spot in the back end of the rotation.
Yeah.
So who do you send down to AAA? Maybe you send Lynch down to AAA and let him work through whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I Coar dominated AAA last year to a point where it's not worth it to send him back there.
Yeah.
Maybe you let him go. You send Bubic into that swing man, kind of sixth guy, long relief that he was good in last year.
Yeah.
And I think his pitchability is just too good for AAA. So maybe you just let that go. There is a little bit of a logjam there, which is again is a good problem because you have enough good pitchers that you can that you can put in and they're going to hold their own, but that you have to give these innings to because they're going to be a part of that next big club.
Yeah.
Like Zack Greinke's not, but that's fine. If you want to put Zack Greinke out there every fifth day as an example to these young guys, then cool.
Yeah.
But don't let that deter you from giving Jackson Coar, Daniel Lynch, John Heasley, Angel Zerpa every opportunity humanly possible.
And the other part about that is Alec Lewis did write that article for The Athletic a couple of days ago about the young pitchers and working with the R&D department within the organization, adding pitches, tweaking things in the offseason. It wouldn't be the worst thing to send guys like Daniel Lynch apparently added a curveball, Bubic added a slider. It wouldn't be the worst thing to send those guys down to battle test those new pitches the new sequencing and stuff like that. I don't think that's something. Maybe you get a little bit of that action in the long swingman role, but it's not consistent, and you're probably not wanting to waste live bullets in mop up duty. So it wouldn't be the worst thing to send those dudes that are tweaking, got some more things to kind of iron out before they're ready for the big league. If that's Brady Singer with his changeup to get more confidence in it, I'm all for it. But if it's a matter you're trying to rush these dudes just because you think it's time, that's a little bit of a different conversation. So it wouldn't be the worst thing to send those dudes that are adding new pitches to the repertoire to go down and test it against AAA to get them more confidence in them to throw them in the big show.
I think that's totally fair. And I remember, I think Coar, they did an interview with him mid-game. I think it was a game a couple days ago, where he talked about he ditched his curveball and started throwing slider. And it's kind of got that slider cutter hybrid kind of deal. And I think that'll actually work really well with the way his fastball plays with the changeup. Mm-hmm. And if he's able to control that better than he did his curveball, because his curveball was always a work in progress. And it never was something that materialized. Remember that they talked ad nauseum about him in between high A and double A, trying to work that curveball in, and it was just a show me pitch. It's like, man, it's got to be more than that at the big league level. And you can't be fastball changeup at the big league level.
No.
Unless you want to be a reliever, you can't do it. So
if anybody can, it's a dude that can pump 98 and has an absolute nasty changeup. But
the problem with his fastball, and this gets a little bit into the scouting weeds, but he doesn't spin it real well for it being 98, 99, which it can run up to.
It's the Brandon Maurer.
And he's 6. Yeah, it's almost like Brandon Maurer. I think that's a perfect example. It's a guy but he doesn't. I mean, he's a pretty big dude. He's like 6'4". Right. He doesn't use any of that frame, and he doesn't hide the ball well enough for that 97 to play. Like I had a scout tell me it's the most disappointing 97 mile an hour fastball he's ever seen, because it should be great, especially with how good his changeup is.
Yeah,
but it's just not.
Yeah.
So maybe he's figured something out. 4 punch outs in 2 innings against in a game. I think it was an A game too. So it was against big leaguers. There's something there, and we'll see how it goes. John Heasley kind of struggled. I think he's a guy that is going to end up being a bullpen piece.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a very good one at that.
Yeah.
Like, I think he can be perfect in that swing man. Hey, you need a start, need a spot start. You need a bulk guy opener type. Need someone to go in the 6th, 7th. I can do it. Angel Zerpa fascinates me because everything about him doesn't make sense. Like, he's not overpowering.
Nope.
He's not this big body guy that like a Daniel Lynch height. He's not stocky. But he just pitches.
Yep.
Like there's something to the art of pitching. And one of my like scouting biases is lefties with good pitchability and a good secondary. And he has both of those.
Yep.
And I think the way he pitched at the end of last season, his one start that he got, it showed something. He was the head scratcher going into 2021 of why the heck is this guy on the 40?
Yep.
And then he pitched across 3 levels and made a big league debut. So obviously,
arguably the best of the young pitchers last year.
Yes, and from a debut perspective, absolutely. So that's
100%.
And that's why I had a very fleeting time in scouting, and I'm sitting behind this microphone talking to you guys because I think I know what I'm talking about, and I don't actually know what I'm talking about.
Just enough to sound like you do.
Exactly. Hey, BSing is the art, man.
So I was talking to my brother about this the other day. Out of these young guys, who do you think right now could go out? You got to put your money on one of these dudes to go out and get you a quality start. Who do you think the most probable one to do that is?
I think it's Daniel Lynch. He's done it.
Yeah.
Singer had a couple of those. He had a string where he was pretty solid. And Carlos Hernandez had that stretch where it was like 3 or 4 starts where he went 5 or 6.
Yep.
But I think Lynch has the better. I mean, he went 8 shut. I know that Tigers lineup was not spectacular.
Sure.
But he was awful in his first 3 starts. And then that was his first start back from AAA. So there's something to be said there for the adjustment he was able to make. And I think his fastball's better. I think his slider's better. He's got that kind of it's like almost like a knuckle slider. I don't know but like he's got that kind of knuckle curve grip that cuts a little more. And he's got a good changeup off with it too, with some great pitchability. And I don't think he has the deception or some other stuff that you want a lefty to have.
Right.
But he makes it work. And he's done it in a much higher degree than Carlos Hernandez or Jackson Core. My biggest knock and the thing that concerns me about Carlos Hernandez is for a dude that throws 98 with a really good curveball, like a hammer of a curveball. He doesn't strike out anybody.
Yeah.
That is a problem. I think if you throw that hard with that good of stuff and you can't get punch outs, there's a little bit of a red flag. Which I don't think he's a bad pitcher.
Right.
But I just don't know if he's the guy that you can rely on in a big game to go and, hey, I need 6 shut with 8 strikeouts. I don't think he's that guy. I think he's the guy that can give you 4 with 2 strikeouts. But I don't know if he's that guy that can go out and really get you a quality start.
I mean, Hernandez, as a 24-year-old, had a 267 BABIP, and I remember that being kind of the good thing about him was that he was generating soft contact, and I think that is the recipe for those quality starts.
I think he could be a great bullpen guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He started just throwing the crap out of his fastball and just started throwing his curveball more. When you could tell he was listening to the coaching. They're like, just go out there. You have 99 in the tank. Go do it.
Yeah.
Hey, you have a great curveball and a great changeup. Throw it more. And he would do it. So, I think there's something there.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Carlos Hernandez had 5 quality starts last year.
Yeah.
Which surprises me.
Now, can you give me the strikeout totals in those 5?
Oh, yes. He went 1, 3, 8 against the Cubs. So
okay. I remember
asterisk that one. And then 1. Oh, that was a 4-run game. 3, 4. Yeah, that's it. So somewhere between 1 and 4 is what you're usually getting.
One outlier start.
Which is, I mean, again, not nothing. It is what it is. It's a good problem to have. We'll see how it all kind of plays out. I'm just curious to see how that is after that 3rd spot. I think, Singer is probably that 3rd guy, and then 4 and 5. And they probably don't have to figure it out right away either. They probably just need to get that 4th spot figured out for the first 2.5 weeks, because MLB scheduling is stupid. But it'll be interesting to kind of see how it all plays out.
Right. And so looking at some of the relievers that have gone, is that there's, only so many spots.
Gabe Spire.
That's the guy that I was going to talk about. I felt like when they signed Amir Garrett that he was going to be the odd man out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock on him. I think he's a great guy that you can bring up immediately and he can be at least solid. There's something different. Like, I think he was throwing a little harder. Yeah. He looked really polished.
Yep.
I think he could be a sneaky breakout candidate to be just like Jake Brentz did last year.
Yep.
Which I think Jake Brentz solidified himself in there. Obviously, Garrett, you get that you carry that 3rd lefty. I think that's going to be a big deal because they only had Brentz and then Lovelady for a little while before he got hurt.
Yeah.
That was the way the bullpen went. Domingo Tapia is going to come back into that bullpen. I know he got roughed up a little bit. I'm not worried about it. For the most part, I'm not concerned about 1 or 2 outings. Like, it's an inning and 2/3, and you give up 2 runs. The ERA looks rough, but that's where I will say though, Ronald Bolaños really did get lit up a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
And Josh Dye did, but I don't think Josh Dye is going to be in the big leagues anytime this year. But that wasn't great. Taylor Clark looked good. So like his fastball kind of sneaks up on kind of whippy overhand delivery that I think could play. He's proven himself in the big leagues. I think he was good with the Diamondbacks for a little bit.
Snyder was that weird 40-man addition this year. You're like, what is that? What?
Colin Snyder?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's pitched well, 3 scoreless innings so far.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy that's going to go down to AAA and prove himself because he was really good with Northwest Arkansas, but he was awful against AAA.
He needs a do-over for sure.
Yes. And then the other guy that got roughed up today was Arodys Vizcaíno.
Yep.
A couple things. That was probably his first really competitive outing in like 2 years. He didn't pitch in 2019, or I think he did pitch in 2019, and they got traded to the Mariners in 2020 and didn't pitch because he had TJ. And he worked all the way back from TJ through last season with the Mets. Never got back to the big leagues, but it's still 97 with some ridiculous sink and a crazy plus slider whenever he's on.
Yep.
So that type of stuff is too loud for me to think the Royals wouldn't put him on the big league roster. It was a minor league deal, but that was when the lockout was still going on. You could only sign guys to minor league contracts.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be some shuffling with the 40-man. I think he's going to be on there. Like I said, the stuff is too good.
Yep. I think that's definitely in.
Like we've talked about with the character side of things when it comes to the Royals, it's not something you often talk about, but in Kansas City, it matters. Yeah. Especially to JJ and Dayton.
Yep.
And I have a friend that's in the AAA or is in the Mets organization, pitched in AAA last year with Arodys Vizcaíno in the bullpen. Said one of the best teammates he has ever had across any level of baseball, college, high school, travel, anytime in A-ball. Like just genuinely like a great dude, great teammate. And when he's on, he's lights out. So
absolutely.
That's the type of dude the Royals sign when they take flyers on some of these guys. It's the locker room high character guy that's going to go out there and he's still going to go out and produce. It's not like he's just there as a cheerleader. Like he's actually really good. And he has this great charismatic quality in the locker room that matters.
Yep. And I think especially with a lot of the Latin players in that locker room, I think it could be he's like a seasoned vet. They don't have a lot of the Latin players that they can look towards that have been in the big leagues for a while, and he could potentially be a little bit of that presence as well. So it's good to hear that that's the case for him, and I'm certainly rooting for him as well. But we also probably need to talk about Austin Cox because he looked great the other day.
Yes,
absolutely spectacular.
I think he might be a sneaky candidate to get a big league opportunity later this year. I don't think it'll be right away, and I don't know if it'll be a rotation spot.
Yeah.
But there's just, again, he's got that kind of it quality of just there's something for it's the field of pitch. The stuff is good enough to play, and it's going to tick up if he goes to the bullpen. Yeah. So he was getting some ugly swings.
Yes.
So
I mean, what they always say, like you need to have 12 or 13 starting pitchers at any given MLB season, and you can absolutely convince me that he could be part of that group. Yes, so I'm interested to see what his year looks like for sure. But he has looked great in spring training in his one outing. So. Somebody else that I'm going to kind of pay attention to moving forward for sure.
Yeah, and what's really nice is we've seen some guys in the Royals bullpen. This will be my last thought, but like you think about the bullpen back in 14-15. Think about the flamethrowers you had back there. It was Prime Holland out there throwing 96 to 98. Wade Davis was pumping 97 to 99. Yeah. Kelvin Herrera was throwing triple digits. Well, you look at the guys they have now. It's Domingo Tapia is throwing 97 to 99. When Arodys Vizcaíno is right, it's 97. Dylan Coleman's hitting triple digits. Yep. Amir Garrett's up there in the mid to upper 90s. Jake Brent's, when he's right, is around 96, 97. Gabe Spires in the mid 90s. You have everybody just throwing fuzz out of the back end of the bullpen.
Yep.
That's just the way the baseball trends. Like I love the way Davis reunion tour was great, but watching a guy throw 87 out of the back, like in the bullpen, was kind of painful to watch. It was tough. Yeah. It was tough.
It's like watching Jordan in a Wizards jersey.
Oh yeah.
But you forgot old Scoots Magoots. Scotty Barlow is going to be shutting the door on him.
Yeah, 95, and he's 94 to 96.
Yeah.
So there's so many. And Taylor Clark's not too bad either. I think he's 94 to 96 too. So they have guys that can go and get outs and blow up by guys, which has been something we just haven't seen a ton of until last year when I think Tapia was one of the first guys when I went, oh crap, he's throwing 100.
Right.
And then
When did that happen? Yeah.
Well, when you think about the possibility of like a Will Klein coming up later this year and pairing that back into the bullpen with Dylan Coleman and Scott Barlow
and Staumont
I don't know how I can forget Josh Staumont. He's throwing 102 when he's right.
Yep.
So I don't know if he didn't throw many triple digits last year. He was 96, 97.
Yep.
But I also think there was some health concern in there for a little bit too. So
that was everybody's suspicion for sure. It looks like there are plenty of dudes that could blow up in that bullpen, but hey, guess what? Good problems coming because there's plenty of arms ready to just strike dudes out right behind them. They might walk a lot of people too, but it's going to be fun to kind of see this bullpen kind of shape up, and it's going to be an ever fluid thing in a given moment. Like I said, these dudes can blow up. Jake Brentz, Tapia, Staumont, even Garrett got blown up a bunch last year. So any given day, those dudes can be an absolute crazy combination there in the bullpen, or they could be walking the earth and they'll be gone the next day. So we'll see how it all goes. I'm excited to see him going.
I'm glad we got baseball, man. Like I said, we are 2 weeks away from opening day, 2 weeks away from the Royals being at the K playing the Cleveland Guardians, watching Bobby Witt Jr. make his big league debut. And hopefully I want Zack Greinke on opening day. You couple that with Bobby Witt Jr. making his big league debut. Like you got the old guard and the new coming in a Royals uniform. Big stuff. I'm excited. Thank you all so much for watching. I said, if you're on YouTube, appreciate you tuning in and looking at our beautiful faces for an hour. Be sure to slap a like on this video. Subscribe to KCSN if you haven't already. And be sure to check out KCSN 24/7 on the YouTube page now. All of our content rolling at all hours of the day. Chiefs stuff, the Royals stuff, One Royal Way and Royals Farm Report will be on from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on that channel every day. You got KU, K-State, Mizzou as well. Something we are super excited about here at Kansas City Sports Network. A great opportunity to see all of our content, not to really search for it. You can just put it on your laptop at work and listen to it as if you're listening to sports talk radio. So it's going to be a great addition here at KCSN. And if you're audio only, be sure to subscribe to KCSN Kansas City Royals, where you'll hear this show and Royals Farm Report every single week. That's where you'll be able to get your podcast, turn your notifications on, make sure you know whenever you see it go live. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you next week.